Hi there, my name's Vince from mymatevince.com, and in this video today we're going to be trying to fix a faulty item that I bought from eBay, and this one here is a PlayStation VR headset. Now it is just the headset, so with the PlayStation VR you do need numerous other things as well. For example, you need that processing unit there, but this is just the headset on its own, so without all the other bits it would be of no use. But for me, this part here is the most interesting, and obviously this one's faulty, so I got it pretty cheaply. I spent 20 UK pounds on it. I'll show you the listing in a minute. Apparently the screen is completely black, but yet I think the lights and stuff light up at the back. Let's just have a quick look round here. Yeah, really does look in perfect condition. Right, I'm looking forward to doing this one. Let me show you the listing. So if you have a look here, I paid 20 UK pounds for it, and the description says the screen within the headset does not power up, it just stays black. The blue lights at the back of the headset light up, and the sensor between the lens seems to work. Right, that's interesting, because I'm not sure if it didn't light up how you would know that that works or not. Other than the screen not working, the headset is in excellent condition. No scratches, the headband adjustment works, and no serious signs of wear, which is very true. So let's have a look here. If we press that button in, yeah, that moves in and out, and that moves fine. So now I've got my one set up over here, so what we'll do is we'll swap them over, and then hopefully we might be able to work out what's going on with it. Now let me just quickly show you my one. So it's going to be one of these things that's very hard to film, but at the moment this is actually on, but because it's not on my head I can't see anything. Now if you look in the lenses here you won't see anything, but watch this. As soon as I put my finger over here, can you see? It comes to life, yeah? Now what I didn't notice is whether these lights came on when I did that as well. That's probably how he knows that the sensor's working, because these probably come to life as well. So I'm just going to leave this down again for a few minutes until it all goes off, and then I'm going to put my finger over the sensor and see if it comes to life again. Right, I've left it for a few minutes now and the lights are still on at the back, so I wouldn't really know how you would know about the sensor working. Let's see if it makes any beeps or anything. No. Right, so that's a little bit confusing. Right, okay, so what we're going to do is unplug my headset and then plug in the faulty one and just verify that that is the fault that we are having. Right, so let's turn it on. Okay, so the blue lights have come on here. Nothing's happening off there. I'm just going to turn it off and then back on again. I'm just actually going to put it on my head and see if I can see anything at all. No, right, nothing's happening there. I'm just going to plug the headphones in and see if I can hear anything when I'm moving left and right. Okay, so with my one I've definitely got sound, and with this one I haven't. So over here now, although it's lighting up at the back, we haven't got sound and we haven't got any picture, which makes me think that that is going to be a HDMI problem. So what we're going to do now is, on my good one, we're going to unplug the HDMI, which is that one there, and now let's see if the lights come on. Right, so the lights come on. Well, they might have gone off there. Let me turn it back on. No, that's right. Okay, so they go off and on again. I'm just going to plug in the headphones into here. No, I can't hear anything. No, definitely can't hear anything. Right, so it's not just as simple as, for example, a faulty HDMI lead, because if it was completely faulty, then the lights would go off and back on again like they do there. So I think what we're going to do is let's take it apart and see if there's anything obvious or not. So, power's definitely getting to it, but it's not displaying anything via audio or display, which has me slightly worried, because if it was just a screen problem here, then I would have thought that the audio would still work, because look, if it's coming from here, surely the audio is happening before. Maybe not, maybe the HDMI goes right the way through. Would it go right the way through here and then come back, and then we can control it via here? Or do we control it on the way through from here, because obviously the signal's going through here? I don't know, but either way, let's take it apart and see if we can see what's going on. So let me get set up. Right, first things first, let's see how to dismantle it. Now, I've had a quick look on an iFixit video. It's just a very quick one, but they start by dismantling it from here, and then it shows you some screws after that. So far that was very easy. Let's give ourselves a bit more room. So now we've got screws here, here, here and here. There's quite a few screws around the place now. Start by undoing them and see how it comes apart. Right, I'm going to have to watch a proper video on it, because I don't want to snap it and it seems to be joined in the middle here. Now, it might just need to be unclipped, but right now I'm not 100% sure. So rather than snap it, because it's quite thin plastic, I'm going to watch a video and see if that will tell me. Okay, so it's a little bit later now, and I now know how to take it apart, because I've been watching Tronics Fix. He did a teardown on one of these. So if I watched Steve to begin with, then I would have fully understood it, but I didn't, and now I do. So basically, there's a little bit of adhesive here, here and here, and also here, here and here. So we're going to have to prise these off using a plastic tool, but at the same time, we've just got to be a little bit careful where the sticky bits are. So, but here we go. It's amazing once you know, like beforehand I was wiggling this everywhere and it wasn't going anywhere, and now by watching a simple video it fills you with so much more confidence. There we go. You can see these sticky little pads here. Hopefully they'll be sticky enough again to put back on, and now we've got to do the same at the bottom here. So thank you, Steve, for your video. Right, so these are all the tracking lights. So with the PlayStation VR you need a separate camera, and that picks up all these lights so it can track your head movement. So let's see if we can undo all these. Basically I want to get to this screen here to see how it's connected. Can't see any ribbon cables loose. I was hoping that basically this HDMI cable that goes in here was going to be loose, or maybe the ribbon cable for the screen was going to be loose, but that all looks to be rock solid in there. So I'm not too sure how repairable this is going to be. Now I'm wondering, looking at the cables here, I'm thinking those two big ones are definitely going to be the two cables that are feeding it, but can you see there's this tiny little connector here? And I bet where my thumb is there, and I bet you that's for the lights at the very back. So that's working. Right, let's take off these little lights here. Right, so I don't know if they're working or not, because I suppose it's only going to be the actual camera that picks that up. So this is the little speaker down here. Or the microphone this is, isn't it? Yeah, little microphone. So we should be able to undo this now and see if it looks any bit dodgy or not, but to me that's all connected really well. I mean, if you look at that there, it doesn't look like it's loose at all, does it? And this one down here doesn't look loose either. Let's flip this up. So this is the thing that connects the screen. That looks absolutely fine. I wonder whether it's going to turn out to be a fault with the motherboard itself. Right, let's leave that disconnected. I think with this one it might have to be one of those... Oh, sorry, here we go. This is the sensor. Do you know what? It could also be a problem with the sensor, couldn't it? Because if it's not recognising the sensor, then it's not going to turn itself on. So if the sensor's not working, if it never thinks a face is there, then it's not going to turn itself on. So that could also be an issue. Unfortunately, I think with this, what I'm going to have to do is, I mean, I do prefer it if I can sort of fault find it in its own right, but it's going to be so complicated. I think I'm going to have to take apart my working one and swap parts around to then find out what's the faulty bit, because for example I'm not going to be able to know if the sensor here is faulty or not. If I swap it over with the other one and it starts working, I know that this part is faulty and then I can fault find it further. But to try and fault find all of it without using another one is going to be very, very hard. So I think for this I will be swapping parts over to try and narrow down what the problem is. That connector there. Good news is we should be able to test that pin to pin, because there's quite a few pins here. Again, it could be the cable itself which is faulty. I mean, it looks good, but I would say that this is probably going to be the weakest link, because this is the thing that gets the most movement. So it would be possible to test between the pins here and the pins here. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to do that now. I mean, is there anything further to do here? I suppose I could pop off the motherboard just to have a look at it. There we go. Now I wonder, can you just replace these, or do they have to be married up with something else? I bet you can just replace them. So you see, if this was faulty here, which is quite likely, it'd be quite nice to try to pinpoint to see if you could prove what, you know, where the fault is, if it lies with one of the chips or, you know, one of the capacitors or something. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my meter out and I'm going to test for continuity between the pins here and these pins here and see if I can work out what's going on. Okay, so there you go. You can see that the grounds there are shortened. So now I'm going to just start choosing each of the pins. So if you have a look with the HDMI, we've got tiny little squares up here, and I can just put my probes just there, just to touch the end of the pin, so I don't have to worry about putting it in here and denting anything. And this one here is like a bespoke connector. Can you see? It's kind of like HDMI, but it's not. So that would be a special one just for the PlayStation, to stop people plugging them in the wrong way around. So when I go between here, I should be able to test. Right, okay, straight away I've noticed something weird. Now I'm not saying it's a fault, but on all these bottom ones here, the outer ones are ground, that one there and that one ground, that one there's ground, but these middle ones do absolutely nothing. Now maybe they don't need to, but at the same time, they're there. I don't know whether they should or shouldn't have a function. So I think it'd be different if every single one was connecting to here, but they're not. Now that could be a fault, or it could be completely normal. So rather than waste a whole heap of time on that, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take apart my good working one, and then for example I can swap the leads over, or I can test them to see if they're testing the same as here, because maybe that is the fault why it's not working, that these bottom ones are not connecting because it's either gone faulty in here or somewhere along the cable, maybe possibly somewhere in this little box here. But right now, I do not know. So I am going to take apart my working one and then compare things and swap things over. Right, so I'll be just fast forwarding through this now to get the thing in pieces. And then when I found out what the problem is, I will then let you guys know. Cross a couple of those pins, not all of them, and they're not shorted on this either, so I think it's unlikely that it's going to be the cable. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to take the board out of here and then put the motherboard, put it in the faulty one, and if it works I know it's something on the motherboard, and then I can try and fault find this further. Right, I'm just going to get a little bit of tape and mark up what's what, because it's amazing how quick you can forget. But I mean, looking at these, the model number on the board is exactly the same. If you have a look, it says here MSH011980 97811. So they both look to be the same. Just mark these all up as good, and now I'm going to start swapping things around. Right, okay, that's excellent news. Well, I'm not sure if it's excellent news or not. The motherboard is showing a display here. So the faulty motherboard, look, I've got the good motherboard out here. So it's definitely not the motherboard, which I suppose is good. The bad news is that it could well be the screen. But, I don't know, would the screen just give out like that? Maybe if it was left on for too long or something. But, that's interesting. So now I know the motherboard's good, I can start swapping over other components. So have a look now. Can you see here? The sensor's working on this one. I still would like to know how the previous person knows that the sensor is good. That bit is confusing to me. Right, so I'm going to just swap over more and more bits until I prove what the fault is. When the sensor's disconnected, it doesn't display anything at all. So in theory, if the sensor was faulty, that could be enough to knock it out. I'm going to see if it's possible to swap the sensors out. Right, so that's it there. I can see a little bit of dirt here, unless that's happened just now. Here we go. So that's it there. But you can see where it divides into two screens. Right, so again, you can see it is possible quite easily to swap that screen over. Now, I still can't see how to get to this sensor. Here we go. Ah, there we go, look. It's its own little unit there. And you can actually undo just the circuit board if you wanted to. But I might as well just do that unit here. So now, I don't think you do have to undo the screen for that. You don't, do you? So let's pop the screen back on before I get a load of dirt in there. Faulty sensor on now. Well, I say the faulty one. The sensor from the faulty headset. So now let's see if anything happens. Okay, so it's not the sensor. This is getting definitely interesting. Look, that's on there now. Wow. So it's not the sensor and it's not the board. So I think we are going to have to do the LCD. The, well, not LCD, whatever the screen is, the OLED screen. Oh, I hope it's not the screen. Right, here we go, faulty screen. And now, let's see if it does anything. Yes! Excellent! Brilliant! Yeah, it's there. So it's not the screen. Wow! Amazing. So it's not the sensor, it's not the motherboard, it's not the screen. I'm really running out of things now. All I can think of is it must be the cable. So let's swap the cable out and then see what happens. Now if it's the cable, I think I'll be quite happy with that, because there's a chance, well, I mean, I might be able to buy spare ones, or there might be a chance that I could possibly find, because every single wire is not going to be broken. It must be just like one or two wires that are. So I might as well put this one, because it doesn't matter that we're mixing things up a bit, I might as well put this screen back on here. It doesn't all have to be my one back together again, as long as it's working. Right, so let's disconnect this one, which we know is good. And let's put this one on, and then if it doesn't work on here, we definitely know it's something to do with the cable. Out of everything, the cable's the most likely thing, because that's the thing that gets flexed and pulled. Right, so that's the suspected 40 cable in this thing here, which the rest of it is good. So now let's see what happens. Right, we've got lights on. There's nothing happening here. Right, so it's something to do with the cable. Right, okay, now it's just going to be a case of comparing the two cables and see if I can see any differences between them. This unit here looks like it's sealed, so it's going to be very hard to break into this. I mean, normally cables go just by the strain relief here, so possibly there might be some kind of issue here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back together here, and I'm going to wiggle it everywhere just to see if any life happens. So this is going to take quite some time, so I'm just going to be fast forwarding through it all, and then if I find anything, I mean, we've pinpointed that there is a fault with the cable, but I'd like to find out where that break in the cable is, or exactly what is the matter with it. Carrying on filming, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be going across every single pin on here to there, and then see if there's any difference between the continuity between here and the cable that works, and just work my way through it. Hopefully I will find something. Just to keep you updated as I go along, so I managed to prise this off. It wasn't that hard. It is glued around the edges, but you can prise it off, and I will be able to get that back on without any major damage. I might have to add a little bit of glue around here, but this is interesting. So basically you can see that there's two cables going into it and two cables coming out, and the HDMI cable is the cable that is intact going right the way through. And then the other cable, which I presume is some sort of power thing, can you see it's partly intact? I mean, some of it, you can just see a little bit of shielding down the bottom there. It's very hard to see, but can you see that the wires go off to here, and they kind of go off to here as well? So if it's a problem on the HDMI side, well, it is just a through cable going right the way through. It goes straight through this box here. So I think that's quite interesting. Could still be a problem here with the power side of it, but I'm thinking no display is probably more likely to be maybe a HDMI problem. Okay, it's a bit of a painstaking process, but basically these are the pins on this triangle thing here. I'll go into more detail later on when I've found out what the problem is. And basically this is what I'm going to call the power connector, and this is the HDMI connector, and I've labelled up each of the pins, not correctly going by the HDMI standard, just via the My Mate Vince standard. But what I've now done is I've now gone across the power connector on the good one, and basically, for example, pin here is ground, and you can see pin 7 is ground. These do nothing. 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They do nothing. And what I've done is I've gone down the good ones here, and then I've gone across my faulty cable, and the power connector is definitely testing okay. It's testing exactly the same for continuity as the good cable. Now I'm going to do exactly the same on the HDMI. It's going to take a little bit longer because there's 19 pins on it, and I'm hoping that when it comes to the faulty ones, it's going to show up on some of the bad pins, and it might give me a better idea then of how to fault find it. Right, okay, we're starting to get somewhere now. So amazingly, the faulty cable is only showing up faulty on one pin. So the whole of the power connector is okay. So if you have a look here, you see this connector here, that is all tested okay. Now look at this HDMI connector. Now again, like I said earlier, do not go by the proper pin out for the HDMI, because I've just done this myself. But if you look at pin number 12, which is 10, 11, 12, the third one along here, pin 12 should be going to number 16 on this pin thing here, you know, on this triangle thing. Let me just zoom in. So what I've done is I've done like pin 1 is down the bottom and pin 40 is up the top. It should be going to pin 16, but it's not. It's not going anywhere. So there's actually only one fault on this, and it is pin number 12 is not going to pin 16. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of show you the picture there, because this might be of use to other people. Now if you have a look, that's the pins showing. So when the pins are showing, the bottom one's 1, top one's 40. And this is how I've done the power connector. You can see with the kind of right angle bit down the bottom, and this is where it should be going to on. So pin number 1 here should be ground on this. Pin number 2, 3, 4 does nothing, 5, 6 does nothing, 7 is ground. So for example now if we go to pin 11, so pin 11 here, which is one of the middle ones here, pin 11 is coming up as 34 and 35 on here. I hope that makes sense. So basically let me just go down, and then you can sort of pause it if you need to look at this in the future. And now the HDMI pin 1, which is this one here, bearing in mind the HDMI connector is upside down like this here, yep, like that. Pin 1 goes to number 18 on this thing. Pin 2, 17, if you understand what I'm going on about, and pin 18 and 19, which are these two here, go to pins 2 and 1. Yeah, so they go to pins 2 and 1. So let me just go through that. And I've put a tick on the faulty cable against all these, and pin number 12 is not coming up on pin 16 on the weird triangle connector. So just for an example here, pin 19 is supposed to be coming up on pin 1. So if I get my multimeter and go to pin 19, which I've got down as here, it should be coming up on pin 1 on here. There you go. And pin 18 next to it is going to be coming up on pin 2 next to it. There you go. So I now need to find out why it's not coming up on pin 16. So I'm going to have a real close look at it, see if I can see any damage. And then I'm not sure. I mean, I think it's unlikely it's going to be a break in the actual wire when it's just one cable. Who knows? I need to just look closely and see if I can work it out. Okay, annoyingly, it's not where the wire meets the connector. I thought the fault would be here because this looks like the weakest connector, a sort of like non-standard connector. But I've gone across pin 16 and it is coming up on this tiny wire here. So I've stripped a tiny bit back and I've got continuity between here and here. I can't show it to you because it's going to be too awkward. But it means that the problem's not here. So I'm going to have to put a tiny bit of insulation tape just over the little bit of wire that I stripped back and close this up here. So I mean, it's going to be very hard for me to pinpoint the fault now, unless of course it's the HDMI end, which it could be. So I'll keep working on it and see if I have any luck. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have to strip back the cable here because I really don't know where it could be. It could be anywhere along this length, but I'm thinking it might be a bad connection in here. So now I'm going to strip it back in here and see if I can find the wire between here and here. If this bit's short's okay, I know that bit's okay, and then I know it's within the length between here and the other connector. Right, annoyingly, check this out, I'm on pin 12 up here, and when I go on here, you can hear it's shorting out. So it's definitely not a problem between the plug and this part here. So it's a problem between here and I've got about, I don't know, like 1.5 meters of cable or something, maybe more. Maybe nearer 2 meters of cable before it gets to here. So it could be absolutely anywhere between here and here. See, I could run a separate wire. I could run a separate wire and kind of sellotape it up. I know it looked bodgy, but it might work. The only problem is HDMI is very sensitive to noise, and the very fact that I've even just kind of stripped this back here, even though I've only done a tiny little bit there, the very fact that these are not twisted like they were before, and I've moved the foil away, that could be enough to ruin the signal. It might introduce noise onto it and it might not actually get the signal. What I have got in my favour is it's not a very, very long lead. If it was like a 10-meter lead, then you'd have more chance of it ruining it rather than the short lead. But still, that could be enough to cause the problem. Just shows you how small the wires are as well. Absolutely tiny. So there's going to be probably 19 wires in that bundle there. Right, so I'm going to keep working on it for a bit. I might try breaking it down one more time halfway to try to kind of do it either side, but it's not the connector which is going to be the weak spot, and it's not here which is going to be the weak spot. So I mean, it could be where it joins here. Really, it could be absolutely anywhere, and that's the problem. Right, okay, so you can see the headset here. I've broken it down here as well. So I've broken it after we've gone past this bit here, and basically there's no continuity between the HDMI plug and this bit here, so we've got a break in this area. So I suppose now what I'm going to do here is break it down again here. I mean, chances are I'm not going to be able to get this working now, because I think there's going to be too much noise introduced onto it. But still, it'd be nice if I could pinpoint it a bit further. I should get lucky soon enough. If I go here, then you can see it's either going to be through this bit or that bit there, and then I might be able to break it down again, or even just replace a short bit of cable if possible. Right, so I've broken it down again, and it's okay between here and here. So it means the fault is between here and this bit here. So I'm definitely getting through it. Right, now because there's just a straight cable between here and here, the only place I can think it's gone is where it meets this strain relief here. So, or I suppose it is possible it could be where it's on this little bit here, because this is also kind of very strongly on it. So I suppose I have to cut it here now. And I know I'm going to get the messages about why don't I just pull the cable. Well, the thing is, that's easier said than done, especially when it's wrapped around other cables. Remember, these are all twisted together. So when I'm pulling it, because of the wrap around, it just ends up pulling the other cables. So for example, I'm not going to go crazy on it, but this one here, if I give that a pull, it's not going to give me any indication, even if I wrap it around there and give it a pull. Even if it was broken here, it'd be very unlikely that that will pull out. The wire would probably snap before, because it's so tightly packed with everything wrapped around it. Because if it was just two wires, then it'd be very easy. If they weren't twisted around each other, you could just pull it, and then for example you would measure where the break is. So you pull the wire out, and if it's measuring this long, you know the break was here. But I can't do that in this instance. Right, excellent, I found the break. So I was taking out this wire here, just trying to strip it back, and look, it did pull out from here. So just if anybody's interested, that's where it broke, right here. Can you see? So where it comes through here, it broke there. So that in this particular instance was the weak spot. And I suppose that does kind of make sense, because look, this is plugged into the processor. This is a thick wire here, and this is straight away where it goes to the thin wire. So this is the bit that is always flexing. Think about it now. Look, that's plugged in to the, you know, that processing unit, and this is the bit where you're moving around. So where's it going to go? It's going to break here. Right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to rerun a wire just from here to here, and then solder them all up, wrap them all up, and see what happens. I think it's unlikely that it's going to work, but you never know. Maybe there won't be that much noise introduced onto it. I'll give it a go. Right, let's see if this thing snaps back together. Yes, it does. Yeah, so what I'll do now is, I mean that feels pretty good as it is, but I will put a little bit of plastic weld after I've tried to fix up all the wires, only if it's working of course. And just an example of what it's going to look like, so basically I've wrapped it round, tried to put the foil and the shield back around it, and I've just put insulation tape around it, and I've had to just cut tiny little bits of tape just to cover up where I've been peeling the wire back to get to the core on the inside, peeling back the insulation. So now you still have to do this one, but with this one I have to actually solder this one back together because the wires themselves are broken. So I'm going to have to solder these two. But you can see with all this unwrapping now, this is where the noise is going to be introduced. Okay, so you can see they're soldered now together again, so I'm going to have to put insulation tape around that and then try to neaten this up and get the shield going more around it. so you can see now that that's insulated, so when I go to tape it up, if any of this foil or the braid hits it, it's not going to short together. Right, hopefully that will give it some strength. Now this is the wire I'm going to use to bridge the gap between here and here. So, I mean, it's going to look horrible because it's going to be going over this bit here, but there's nothing really else I can do. I'm not going to be able to feed that through all here. So it's going to go from here and onto this purple wire here, and we'll see if it works or not. Right, good news, I have got continuity, so if you listen now, if I go on to pin 12 here, and if I go on to pin 16 here, it's quite awkward to do one-handed. Let me find it. There. There. Hold on. There we go. But that doesn't actually mean anything. Yes, there's continuity, which is good news, but look at this wire here, just out loose. I'm going to tape it together. But if that was part of a pair, for example, if they were twisted around each other, then all that noise is just going to go straight onto that pair, and that could be enough to stop the signal. Because remember, you've got a lot of high-speed data and stuff going down here, and that's what my worry is. And as well as that, I've cut it in numerous other places. But even if it doesn't work, it hasn't been a waste of time, because now if I ever come to do these again, and I think I might well do, because I've really enjoyed this one so far, I know now that this is always going to be the weak spot, where the processor is on the ground and then this is where the wire flexes. So if you're having a problem with your cable, I think it would be quite a good point to start on this little section here, and then you might get away with it. I might not get away with it because I've cut into it however many times, like I think it's 1, 2, 3, I'm not sure, 3 or 4 times. But if you could just go straight to this point, give the wire a little tug, and if it was to come out from here, then you'll have more chance of the noise not affecting it. So now I'm just going to tape all this up, and then we'll put it back together and see what happens. So there we go, that's the big bodge job of sellotape, but it does actually feel quite strong. If it was just a small bit, then I could have used like a heat shrink on it, and then apply some heat and shrink it down, and it would look nicer. But trying to get it all over these bits here would be too hard. If it works, I could always think about possibly seeing what heat shrinks I've got and seeing if it would work or not. But I think realistically, I probably will be just sticking with the sellotape. Right, so I'm going to get this back together now, and then as soon as it's back together, I won't test it. I'll start filming again, and then we can test it and see if it's working while the camera's running. So I'm very nearly there now. I'm just doing the final touches. I just need to put the last few screws in and then put the surround on and these clipped things up here. Little touches like that are nice. If you look at this thing that blocks out the light, it's got the little PlayStation button logos. Right, okay, that is them both back together. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to test the good one first, make sure that's still working, and then I can test the faulty one and see if we have any picture or not. So I'm going to set up the PlayStation 4 because it's all turned itself off. Right, so it's testing time. So this is the faulty one. Put that to one side. This is the good one. Let's make sure that this is still working. Yeah, there we go, you can see it's gone blue in there, yeah? Excellent, right, well that still works. Let's turn this one off. And now we'll try the faulty one and see if this lead has actually worked or not. Plug that in, plug that in. Alright, let's see if it turns on. Excellent, it turns on. Let's see if the lights come on. Brilliant, the lights come on. Right, moment of truth now. Here we go, let's see if it comes on or not. In fact, I can already see it. Yes, it's already on, look. Right, let's get the camera right down so you can see in there. Result, fantastic. So, it's working. Right, let's get the camera right in low. Right, so it's gone off at the moment, so I'm going to use the sensor here now. Ready? There you go. And now, not sure if that's going to. There you go. There you go. All right. Now let me get the remote control. Sorry, I mean the controller. 1 second. Sorry, it keeps wobbling. There we go. Excellent. It's gone off again because of the sensor. There we go. Every time I put my thumb over there, it comes on. So the sensor's working, and the screen's working, and it's working through both of them as well. What a result! I really enjoyed that fault finding there. Just going to quickly check to make sure that the actual speakers are working on it. Just need to put a little bit of glue around here as well to make sure that doesn't fall out, but it seems pretty securely in. Excellent, they're working. Let's put the volume up full so you can hear it. Yeah, there we go. Right, check this out. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this. Hopefully you can hear that. So what a result. Really enjoyed doing that one. I thought it was it's really nice the way it's been put together. It was nice to work on, and I enjoyed the fault finding. If I didn't have my other good one here, then I would have really struggled with that, because I wouldn't really have known what pins were faulty. So remember, out of all of them, it was just one pin that caused the problem. So one wire was broken. Out of 40, a possible 40 connections, just one was gone, and that's enough to make it stop working. So yeah, if it wasn't for having the good headset, I really wouldn't have been able to fault find this. There would have been too much. But you know, now that I've done one, I would be tempted to get more. And somebody told me about a job lot of these, and I think there's still on eBay a huge, massive job lot. I might get them, you know, because I think, just like the Xbox one, it's a business seller selling it, and I think it might be interesting because they're probably going to have a variety of faults. It would be annoying if every single one was the cable, but I think it's unlikely. I think they probably would have a variety of faults. So, you know what, I might well do more of these in the future, but this one I thoroughly enjoyed. So hopefully you did too. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe for more Trying to Fix videos. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye now.